Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namani Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Prasharani Nirvise Sasunyvari Vaskyacha Deshatarane Namo Mahabandanyaya Krishna Prem Badayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namani Gaura Trise Namaha Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanitaya Cha Jagaritaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shivasari Shri Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So this is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, started by my spiritual master in 1965. And Prabhupada came to the West to train us in the practice of Krishna consciousness. The Krishna consciousness movement started, as we have learned it, it started 500 years ago in India with Lord Chaitanya, Mahaprabhu, who is Krishna himself. Krishna originally appeared 5,000 years ago, and the beginning of that lineage we call the Brahma Sampradaya. Now, 500 years ago, Krishna appeared again as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna Chaitanya. So we call this the Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya. So the teachings are basically the same, but the practice of Krishna consciousness since Lord Chaitanya is more intense. There is a higher level than what Krishna gave. So if you read Bhagavad Gita, then you can learn what Krishna has given, which are the basic tenets of Krishna consciousness. Surrender to me, become my bhakta, my devotee, surrender everything unto me, worship me exclusively, above and beyond any demigods, worship me, offer your food to me, all your activities should be dedicated to me. This was Krishna's instruction to Arjuna. And then he said, Krishna says, and then you will attain me. And when you attain me and you come to me, you will never come back to the material world again. So this was Krishna's instructions. Lord Chaitanya gave even a higher level or deeper understanding of Krishna consciousness. Two parts. The first part of Krishna consciousness is exactly what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Surrender to me, make me your most worshipable God, give me everything, offer everything to me in love and devotion. This is bhakti. Bhakti can only be said in relation to Krishna. That is a definition of bhakti. But once you have attained a certain level of surrender, now you are ready for the liberated activities of Krishna consciousness, which we call Raganuga Bhakti. So Rupa Goswami, who is a direct disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has given this what is called Sadhana Bhakti in two phases, two parts, Vaidhi Bhakti and Raganuga Bhakti. So Vaidhi Bhakti is when you don't have a spontaneous attachment to Krishna because you're not on the liberated platform yet. So Vaidhi Bhakti is meant to regulate the senses, regulate one's activities, always keeping the senses engaged in Krishna consciousness, through hearing, chanting, remembering, offering oneself to the Lord, reading, all these different activities. Actually, there's 9 activities, 9 primary activities that one can perform, of which chanting is the primary activity. In a regulated, in a regulated way, meaning that it is done in a perfunctory way. It is getting up in the morning early, bathing, seeing the deity, worshiping the deity, chanting one's rounds, reading, etc., etc. There's no full taste yet because the senses have not been purified enough. So we call that regulative bhakti. But by performing regulative bhakti or regulative bhakti under the anugatya, under the shelter of the bona fide spiritual master in the disciplic succession from Lord Chaitanya, going back to Krishna. If he is a bona fide authorized guru like my spiritual master, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, then at some point in one's practice, the Vaidhi Bhakti will become Raganuga Bhakti. Or the external performance of Bhakti Yoga becomes internalized. So it is like a, here is an analogy, when the daylight becomes evening, there's something called twilight. Just as the sun is setting, the moon is rising, just at that time when the sun is no longer and the last rays, the rays begin to diminish, the sun globe has disappeared, the rays are almost gone, the moon rays are beginning to rise. So you have that change from day to night, night to day. In the same way, without changing the activity, the Vaidhi regulative practice of Krishna consciousness somewhat automatically will morph into the Raganuga if one is practicing correctly. It will automatically, because the karma or the reactions that are keeping us externalized become so much mitigated by the practice that we're doing that at some point it overflows, the bhakti overflows the karmic reactions of our life, and the bhakti takes over. So devotion becomes the primary aspect of our life, and even though there are some karmic reactions still there, they become so diminished, it's like they take a back seat. They no longer have any effect on you. At that point, you are an internalized individual. Your mind and senses and intelligence are basically fixed on Krishna. So you have shelter. So let's just talk for 1 minute about this very important point, is shelter, ashraya, shelter. The problem in material life is there is no shelter. Everything appears to be shelter-like, but there's absolutely no shelter because it's moving constantly. Everything that we think is shelter is moving, growing, dying, being born, growing, dying. It's like being on a moving surface. So our body is changing, the relatives that we have change, the circumstances around us change, time changes everything, and we are always therefore in flux. There is no shelter. Now, come back to Krishna consciousness, and by focusing the mind to the regulative principles day after day after day, the false sense of security gets removed, where we're no longer seeing the rope as the snake, we see the rope as a rope. So the false sense of security is removed, and the real shelter comes front and center, and that is Krishna. And when the mind finds shelter in Krishna, this is the beginning of true happiness, because it's constant, it doesn't end, it stays with you all day, all night. Your mind remains within. This is sought after. Just this level is sought after by all yogis, all religionists, all philosophers, all people who are on a higher path. Even the sense gratifiers are looking for constant happiness. And yet the only people to attain it in reality are devotees of Krishna. Because Krishna is the real shelter. He is the shelter behind everything. And until we reach that ultimate reality, our mind will constantly be shifting here and there, here and there. So real happiness begins when our mind finds shelter in the ultimate reality. Now we have no more guesswork, no more illusion in our mind, no more wondering, no more false seeking, no more false wandering, no more grievances over the past, anything, or misgivings, no more depression. The mind finds shelter in the ultimate reality, who is Krishna, and Krishna is all good, all blissful, all knowing, the be all and the end all. Try to wrap your intelligence around these thoughts, this understanding. So this is the benefit, right, of devotion to Krishna. Now, prior to my meeting Srila Prabhupada, I was very serious about self-realization. It was very difficult for me to do anything in life other than seek out the highest truth. And to do that, I embarked on a journey of Zen Buddhism. At that time, Zen was very popular, Buddhism was very popular, drugs were very popular, LSD was very popular. And there was a culture going on where people were becoming introspective or searching. And I found that this Zen might give me the answer. As I looked around the environment and heard from the different people what they were finding useful, I felt Zen was a fastest route toward whatever there was to discover. It was faster than Buddhism. It was accelerated Buddhism. So I got involved with Zen. And still, I could not find what I was looking for. My mind could not stop wandering. It tried. I tried to keep it still. I tried to keep it focused. I tried to become internalized. This is a natural propensity for anyone who's looking for God. Not until I met my spiritual master, took up the path that he gave, which is coming from Lord Chaitanya, who is Krishna, and did I start chanting Hare Krishna, that I began my journey toward finally getting what I was after. I did not know that Krishna is the ultimate reality. I wasn't schooled in Bhagavad Gita. No one taught me anything, as is the case with most Westerners. Srila Prabhupada taught me everything. So the first thing anyone has to do is take shelter of a very qualified spiritual master. and learn from him the Vedic scripture. And then be a student of the spiritual master. Practice what he says. Don't just listen and then go off and do your own thing. Apply your mind to what the spiritual master is teaching, if you truly want to know the absolute truth. So I did this, and I'm not saying that the results are immediate. The highest truth, something that you will keep forever, doesn't come cheaply. You do have to work your way through your own karmic reactions and conditioning. And depending on you and your sincerity will have a lot to do with how long it takes. But whether it's 1, 5, 10, or 50 years, it really doesn't make a difference. The good news is, along the way, there is tangible results. It's not like you're in Maya so badly day after day after day after day until you finally get to that liberated stage. The Maya, or the conditioning, does decrease along the way. So there is a relief along the way, and that is why that relief is what drives us to the higher and higher stages to finally get to where we want to go. So Krishna gives us mercy along the way. As we are healing and we're getting healthy mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, we have a desire to improve our bhakti. So it's a self-fulfilling practice. Once we reach one stage, we go, I can breathe. Mind is not completely settled. It does tend to still wander. We do chase material desires, but there's a certain decrease in the wandering and a certain sense of self-joy from the practice, which causes us to want to continue and to continue and to continue what we're doing. And as we see more and more marked improvement, we notice that we're going in the right direction. Things are going well. We feel a somewhat of a spontaneous attraction for Krishna consciousness, more so than any of the other activities that we've been performing in our life. And what's really interesting to me is that this is a true experience because I'm not a saint. Along the way on my journey, I can't say that I have been completely pure or saintly in my activities. And I think you will find that any Westerner who takes up the practice of Krishna consciousness has a marked amount of conditioning to deal with, which means that while you're practicing bhakti, there will be material desires alongside. And sometimes they're very hard to resist, mentally, physically, in action, in words. But this is not the end of your bhakti. It's not like you have gone off the cliff, the deep end, and you're back to ground zero. It doesn't work that way. In spite of our efforts to entertain our material desires, as long as we are doing our Vaidhi Bhakti, which is externally, we're chanting our rounds, we're offering our foodstuffs, we're reading, we're doing the best we can. When these interruptions come, and they may last sometimes for years, it could be months, could be weeks, days, hours, or even years. They are not permanent, and they are not so terrible that we cannot and will not get back onto the steady path. Now, and once we're back on the path, we feel even stronger. And this sends a message to the mind. Krishna is so kind and so merciful. He truly only sees the bhakti that we render. He's not a judgmental type of God. He doesn't go, well, you went off and you did this materialistic activity, you forgot me and your practice. So you went off and did this, therefore I'm going to give you a reaction or I'm going to cut you off from me. It's not like he's that type of father. Krishna is so merciful, and that is why when we come to our senses and we again get involved on the level of bhakti that we were before, we find Krishna is so sweet, so wonderful. Now, this doesn't mean that we should leave the path in order to come back to experience mercy. It simply means that Krishna is merciful. And as they surrender unto me, Krishna says, I reward accordingly. He basically sees the positive. He doesn't take into account and hold against us the negative. He looks at the positive. He sees us offering food to him, chanting his name, singing his glories, and he gives us his mercy on that basis. He doesn't give us karma. God doesn't punish us. That is not Krishna consciousness. We punish ourselves. We do the wrong thing and we punish ourselves. Krishna is not punishing us. The material nature is punishing us. So if we continue our bhakti, then by its very nature, the bhakti will at some point overflow whatever material desires are left in us. And that's how we become internalized and fixed, because the bhakti overflows. It takes precedence. I call it the inflection point of bhakti. I call it the inflection point. Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave the term nama bas, which is the clearing stage. So my explanation would be it's more like an inflection point, okay, or a clearing stage. But I say like water, when its heat is put to water, it reaches the boiling point, at which point it changes into a steam. So it changes its own character at some point, and you can actually say it's at 212 degrees Fahrenheit that water boils, which means that it's scientific. No matter where you are in the world, if you bring water to that point, it will boil. And in the same way, in Krishna consciousness, every single individual will reach their inflection point, okay, at which point they will become internalized. Internalized means no longer affected by the material senses and the material objects. One withdraws into the mind, withdraws into the Brahman platform. The mind, the senses, the mind, the intelligence, and even the ego find shelter in Krishna, who exists within us. And at that point, the outer senses, eyes, ear, nose, touch, taste, all the different senses become controlled. We don't run here and run there. They become controlled. So we call this stage Swami or Maharaj or Goswami, controller of the senses. And this is a very, very important aspect of God consciousness. You're not going to realize God if you're running after your senses. The two are diopposed. Someone who's actually becoming God conscious, he's going to be a self-controlled individual, because the mind needs to internalize. And so if someone is constantly externalized and controlled by his senses, he's not an advanced God conscious individual. He's in the beginning stages. Now, once we've reached this inflection point in our bhakti, the Vaidhi Bhakti will cross over into the Raganuga Bhakti, because now the mind is naturally absorbed, and it is more pleasurable. The experience that you have chanting Krishna's name and contacting Krishna is very real and very deep. The experience of direct devotion or directed devotion is a very, very personal, deep experience that opens the door to the spiritual world, because the spiritual world is going to be perceived from within. And when your senses and your mind is within, then the chanting opens the door to the inner world of Krishna consciousness, because we are connected to Krishna consciousness through the self. The pure self is Brahman, energy, and there's a connection between Brahman and Para-Brahman. We will be speaking more of a direct language when we are self-realized. That language is the language between the living entity and God. And it does require this type of focus. Vyavasayatmika buddhi, Krishna uses that phrase in the Bhagavad Gita, fixed intelligence, or intelligence that is one-minded or one-pointed. So at that stage, the beginning of our liberated stage, the very, very, very beginning, Raganuga takes over, where we will make larger chunks of advancement more quickly. Things will become much more sensible to us in regards to spirituality, in regards to what Prabhupada has written, in regards to everything that is written about Krishna. It will be much, much easier to understand the esoteric meaning of everything. So when I was first beginning Krishna consciousness, I had a natural aptitude to read. I applied my mind to nectar of devotion. And honestly, I could hardly understand a word. I didn't give up. I stayed with it. I read all of Prabhupada's books, but they were difficult to read. And that may be happening to you. However, when the mind is fixed and you've achieved some level of advancement, the literature is easy reading. It's very easy. And not only is it easy, it's exhilarating. In and of itself, it's extremely exhilarating and very, very deep and meaningful. And there's so much revelation in the writings of our spiritual master, the writings of the previous acharyas, and the chanting of the holy name. Revelations, especially in regards to the emotions that are part of the practice of bhakti yoga. And this is where Raganuga differs from Vaidhi, and this is where Krishna consciousness differs from any other practice, including the practice of Vaishnavism prior to Lord Chaitanya. There was an introduction by Lord Chaitanya of these emotions called bhava. Bhava is ecstasy. They are not material emotions, they're not mundane emotions. They are spiritual emotions that have to do directly with one's relationship with Krishna or others and their relationship with Krishna. And these emotions are in relation to Krishna, whereas our mundane emotions are in relation to our body and everything related to the body. So bhava is something that was never part of Vaishnavism prior to Lord Chaitanya. Lord Chaitanya is Krishna, but in the mood of Radharani. So much so that as you read these pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, you are actually associating with Radharani, because all of his emotions are Mahabhav emotions related to Radharani and her enthusiasm for Lord Krishna. And so our practice of Krishna consciousness, or I should say, our Raganuga practice of Krishna consciousness, what it's doing is it's putting us in close proximity of Lord Chaitanya. Now, I know Lord Chaitanya came 500 years ago, but as a Gaudiya Vaishnava, he's here right now for me. It could be, this video might be viewed 2, 3, 4,000 years from now. And I'm telling you, regardless of how long since the arrival of Lord Chaitanya, when you become advanced in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, you will feel Lord Chaitanya is here with you now. So it's not that he's come to us, it's we're coming to him. We're entering into his realm. He's not entering into our realm. We're leaving our realm as liberated Vaishnavas, and we're entering into his realm. And in his realm, which can be experienced through Chaitanya Charitamrita and chanting Hare Krsna, we will be experiencing his emotions. And his emotions are, you can read all about them in the different leelas. These are the highest types of emotions that one can have in relationship to Krishna. And we, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, are privy to those emotions. And it is absolutely mind-boggling, ecstatic, super blissful, super confidential, super transcendental. It is a cult in and of itself. It is something so clandestine, confidential, that even those who are practicing Vaishnavism, who worship Lord Narayan, Lord Vishnu, cannot understand the worship of Lord Krishna. Even those who are part of Dwarka and Mathura cannot understand the specific emotions that occur in Vrindavan. They're so confidential and so unusual. Now, Lord Chaitanya, his idea was that he, as Krishna, wanted to experience and taste this mood that Radharani's love for him. And so he was thinking, because he was asked to come to this planet by Sri Adwaita to help with this Kali Yuga. Things have gotten so horrible in such a short period of time that Sri Adwaita was praying, please come, please come, please come and help the fallen conditioned souls. Lord Chaitanya had two ideas in mind. One, to fulfill the desire of Sri Adwaita, and two, to fulfill his own desire of tasting Radha's love for him. Why? Because they're both inseparable to the Lord. On one hand, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that I come, yada he glanas. My Sanskrit is terrible today. Yada he dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. So Krishna says, I come millennium after millennium to reestablish the principles of religion, to destroy the demoniac, and to give shelter to the pious. He does that every single yuga. He comes over and over and over again because the Dharma gets degraded over time. And that's what he's done in this age as well. In the Kali Yuga, he's come actually at the end of Dwapara, and now in the Kali Yuga, he's come to do that. But he's also, as Krishna, has an inseparable love for Radharani. It's extremely satisfying to the Lord, his relationship with Radha. He has relationship with his mother, his father, his cowherd boyfriend, and all the gopis. But he has a unique relationship with her, and he wanted to demonstrate that. He wanted to give that. He felt that this would be a wonderful thing to give to the denizens of the Kali Yuga, that they could appreciate Radha's love for him. And at the same time, he himself wanted to taste it. So he decided to come and give the Yuga Dharma as well as this praying for Radharani that Radharani has. Radharani's praying for him, what we call Mahabhav. So Krishna is Rasaraj. He's the reservoir of all pleasure. He's the cause of all bhava. He's the object of all love. But Radharani is the greatest vessel of that love, the greatest perpetuator of love for Krishna, the greatest instigator of that love, and therefore the greatest lover of Krishna. And so, as we are all recipients, those in this Kali Yuga, we're recipients of that Mahabhav experience. That Mahabhav, which was exhibited by Lord Chaitanya, when we as jivas get close to it, it overfloods us. The bhavas that come from Lord Chaitanya enter into our heart. We become a witness and a taster of those emotions as well. And anyone who is tasting Radharani's love for Krishna wants to serve her, wants to be, sees that the couple, Radha and Krishna together, and their love affair is the most intimate and confidential aspect of bhakti. That those who are in the know, those are our internalized devotees, seek that type of association because it's the most gifted, the most exalted, the sweetest, the most intense. In our line, our acharyas are great devotees of Sri Radha. They study her, and through her, they can approach Krishna. They see her actions and how she is, and how Krishna is attracted to her. And so they study all of the moods Radharani has in her, and they've given names, specific names to each type of mood. So we as Gaudiya Vaishnavas are very, very keen to Sri Radha. And this is part of our Raganuga experience, and it changes our character, it changes us, it makes us into dasis or servants of Sri Radha. If that, in many cases, that will become our final destination, is to serve Radharani in her efforts to please and be with Lord Krishna. This is called Manjari. Many Vaishnavas in the Gaudiya line will be attracted to Manjari Bhav. Doesn't mean all, but many will be. But for sure, everyone will be given that opportunity to taste Lord Chaitanya's love for Krishna. And so it is. This is how Krishna consciousness is expanding throughout the hearts of all living beings on the planet. And it will continue to expand at a much, much higher pace over time. Just as within our own heart, it took time for bhakti to overcome our material identity and material attachments. In the same way, it will take some time for the Hare Krishna mantra to overwhelm the material world and cause all living entities to finally internalize and rise to this platform of Radha Dasyam. This is the what's the word? Destiny for humanity. We will become much more of a Vedic society. If you're seeing this video and it's 2,000 years from now, you may think that actually there's going to be a 10,000 year golden period of golden period. So I would think that in actually 2,000 years from now, there will be more people practicing the Vedic culture because of Lord Chaitanya. So I'm thinking that if someone's seeing this video 2,000 years from now, let me tell you that we're living in very moderately difficult time. There is a preponderance of meat eating. There are these things called McDonald's hamburger stands everywhere. People are accustomed to killing the cow. Everyone is eating meat. I would say 99.9% of the population is eating meat. And there is basically no Vedic culture left at all. This is 2024. So you can, if you're seeing this video 2,000 years from now, you can understand that we are 500 years from Lord Chaitanya's time, and there is no semblance of Vedic culture other than the temples, most of them ISKCON temples, started by my spiritual master, that are existing around the world. Not many in relation to the rest of the population. And I would say at this point, we have possibly maybe 150,000 devotees initiated by the different gurus who have expanded from Srila Prabhupada with the mission of expanding the number of disciples. So I don't know how many disciples will be made in 1,000 years from now, but I'm thinking 5, 10 million, 50 million, 100 million by then. And so the Vedic culture, I'm expecting to increase. Even though we are in the Kali Yuga, this is the golden age of the Kali Yuga, so the Vedic culture should be increasing, which means that you might even be seeing demigods coming down in 1 or 2,000 years. You might even be able to interact with them, because there's going to be this Hare Krishna mantra is going to purify all the ethers, the air, the people. It'll be a complete renaissance, and it'll be really good. And from this renaissance of the chanting, which is perpetually in the ethers now and rolling around and constantly being vibrated, many, many, many people are going to become pure and go back home, back to Godhead, into Vrindavan. This is a great opportunity. So I'm looking toward the future. Those that might see my video in the future, Srila Prabhupada was my spiritual master. You know who he is. You've heard of him. You've read his books. You're aware of Srila Prabhupada. Amazing, fantastic. His personality is just, he is what I would consider Nitya Siddha. Absolutely, completely empowered devotee. And I was very fortunate to have his personal association, not in any intimate way, but have his personal association. I've seen him, have attended his classes, heard his sound vibration, and taken personal initiation from him. And so I've got a good footing, even though this is 2025 and there's no Vedic culture externally, nothing. I still have a solid foundation, but you in the future will have access to so many temples. Demigods are coming down. So many people are wanting to hear and participate in Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement. So you don't feel bereft as much as we do here. But my benefit is I had such great association with Srila Prabhupada. So the process is the same, whether it's now or in the future. The process of Krishna consciousness as given to us by Rupa Goswami will not change. It's the same. The difference perhaps is in the future, 2,000 years from now, there'll be so many Vaishnavas born that their karma is going to be negligible. And as soon as they take birth, they're going to be from the very young age involved in Krishna consciousness. And before you know it, they're going to be in the Raganuga platform. And that's going to accelerate the worldwide climaxing of this Radha Dasyam. I'm excited. I don't want to come back, actually. I really don't. I am planning on moving on to Gokula. I think that this world is going to be in very good hands. And I've done everything that I've wanted to do here. I will try to preach as much as I can. I'm 73, and I will try to get out and preach and give these type of talks. I can do it here through video. I will do it to personally as well. But I'm pretty much ready to move on to Gokula. I want to take birth in Gokula. I want to participate in Krishna's Leela. I want to get further training. I want to become as good a Vaishnava devotee of Lord Krishna as possible. And I do want to enter into the eternal youthful pastimes of Lord Krishna. This is my heart's desire. This desire has been planted. The seed of what the bija seed that Lord Chaitanya came to give was put in my heart by my spiritual master. And so like any one of us, if you cultivate that seed, then you will lose interest in any of the material goals that are available, even higher planetary system, celestial planets. Any of these goals are going to be diminished to nothing. The power of devotion is, especially that which is given by Lord Chaitanya, just pulverizes any desire for celestial life or even beyond, Tapalok, Maharlok, Satyalok, none of that. A devotee becomes so attached to the pleasure of performing bhakti for the sake of bhakti that he just wants to take birth in Gokula, have a spiritual body, that he can relate to the Lord, see the Lord, engage with the Lord, touch the Lord's body, be involved in the Lord's pastimes. There's just nothing else for us. And I'm so excited that this planet is going to be the recipient of Lord Chaitanya's mercy. I'm so happy about that. So I feel nothing but happiness in my heart. And I pray that all those who see this video, both now and in the future, can also be joyful with me, tears of love. Let's exchange this wonderful, wonderful exchange of love that Lord Chaitanya's come, Krishna's here. We're all so fortunate. May the Lord protect us, and I hope to see all of you in Gokula one day. Hare Krishna.